lions, tigers, bears, oh my. My name is Lucas, and I've been studying martial arts for years, and I wanted to make a video about the toughest and easiest animals to overcome in a one-on-one fight. That's right, we're going to be ranking the most dangerous animals in the animal kingdom. Me, I'll be this test subject. I am also going to walk you through, using the martial arts knowledge that I have, how I would defeat these animals in combat. Okay, now we're not talking about weapons. This is mano-y-mano, fist to paw. These animals are wild animals. Let's get that. Let's get that out of the way. These animals are wild. And, so there's no bars hold. This is not one of those no eye gouging, no eye poke moments. This is a combat fight. And, there's no rules in the jungle. So who is the king of the jungle? Is it me? Well, I am going to break down my stats. To give you guys my background, I'm 5'8". I'm about 170 pounds. And I will be doing the tail of the tape versus every single animal that we bring up. And on this tier list, I'm going to be ranking just which animals are the toughest to beat. Those will be in the S tier, and which animals are in the D tier, the easiest to beat. So without further ado, let's get this one going, starting with the first animal on our list is going to be a walrus. These range from 4 meters long to 1.7 thousand pounds versus me, of course, 170 pounds, 5'8". How difficult would a walrus be to beat in a combat fight? How would the fight go down? And what would my way to win be, given my martial arts experience and knowledge? Well, this one would be a tough one because walruses, these fuckers are super durable. Like, you look at a walrus, it looks like if you... it looks like even if you were to shoot one of these dudes, nothing would happen. It would just engulf a bullet. So how would a mere punch do? You punch a walrus in the fucking stomach and nothing's going to happen. Ain't shit going to happen. All right? It's probably just going to fucking engulf you. You try to punch one of these things. So I'd imagine if you were to put me in a cage in one of these things, it would kind of slug itself forward, and I'd have to stomp it. I'd have to throw sidekicks. I think my way to win this fight, maybe by decision, would be getting to the side of it and throwing sidekicks, teeps to the midsection. Again, it's not like it's standing up, so the midsection is on its side. So think about me going off to the side, teeping it, sidekicks. You can't really leg kick these things. You're just gonna hit a wall or a blubbery wall. But looking at the speed of walruses, it's one of those things where, even polar bears will bite these things and they can't get through the skin and the hide. I think that I'd have to win a decision and I'd have to bide time. But if one of these walruses can take its tusks and stab me with them, well, I think it'd be pretty difficult for me to beat one of these guys. To be honest, I think it'd be a bit of a draw. I think that I could at least utilize my footwork to dance around on the outside. You know what? To be honest, they look a little bit slow. I think I could at least win a fight via decision. I don't think I'm beating it and KOing one or finishing one of these guys. But, essentially the way to beat a walrus is to not get in its face. Do not face it front on and get to the side. Just pepper to the side and wait for the final bell. We'll do decisions if there are 25 minutes. I think we're going to do 25-minute fights. It's one of those things you're probably not going to be able to get the finish. Maybe climb the back. Maybe get on top of the walrus, climb the back, and look for hammer fists. If you can take the back, you will not be able to sink in the hooks or the body triangle. So you're just going to have to balance on it. I think it'll probably throw you off and maybe stab you if you get to the ground. So I think the best way to beat it is by decision, side kicks and front kicks to the midsection. So I'm going to put a walrus in the D tier. Okay, I think actually a walrus is pretty beatable. For me as a martial artist who has 2 years of kickboxing under my belt, I think I could beat it by decision, man. Listen, I just don't think I'm slow enough or dumb enough to let a walrus get in front of me. I think I would be fast and slick enough to be able to get it on the outside and make things work. So I think I'm putting it in the D tier, beatable. Next up, we have chimpanzee. This is the famous one. This is the one everyone talks about. This is the boogeyman in the animal versus human world of combat sports, so to speak. Chimpanzees, a male chimpanzee about 130 pounds, 140 at most, about 4.5 feet tall. So I'm going to have the height advantage. I'm going to have the weight advantage. And let's remember, there are weight classes for a reason. But for the chimpanzee, he will have a significant strength advantage. Now, chimpanzees, people back in the day used to say they were 10 times the strength of a man. They're about 3 times the strength of a man, an average man. And if you're athletic and somewhat strong, it's probably only 2.5 times stronger than you. Now, I understand another element that the chimp has is it's an animal. So it doesn't think like a person. It's much more vicious. It's stupider. You know, as they say, you fight someone that has nothing to lose, that's a scary person because they don't care what the repercussions are. Chimps are like that because they're a lot dumber than people. So obviously they don't give a fuck about the They do care about the repercussions, but not on the first blow. Chimpanzees, they're like first round monsters, right? They're kind of like they're like a one-round fighter, like a Khamzat Chimaev, a Conor McGregor, in the sense that they're coming out of the gates like they've got nothing to lose, like a man that doesn't care. They're fast. They're explosive. They're vicious. They'll bite your face off. Right off the bat, I'm putting a chimpanzee into the A tier. Right off the bat. It might even go higher as we discuss this, but let's think about this, right? Because right off the bat, I know that if I make a mistake, there's a devastating consequence, all right? If I make a mistake, I might not be dead, but I'm changed forever. I think a chimp has a really good chance to finish me. Chimpanzee ability to get the finish is very high, which is pretty crazy. But again, let's remember I have the fight IQ. All right, so let's try to think of this. Grappling chances, I'm going to give myself a 0 chance to grapple. I don't think I've got a single chance in hell to tussle up with the chimp and out-grapple it. I think it's going to be a striking-only approach. Early on, you got to expect the chimpanzee to leap at you because it's coming down the gates and it's fucking rushing at you. It's probably leaping at you like King Kong leaping on the Empire State Building. It's jumping at you. You've got to have something ready. So I'm looking at teeps. I'm looking at sidekicks. Maybe a sidekick. I kind of like a sidekick. Just a quick turning sidekick. One of those that Wonder Boy would throw to kind of, back it off of you. Because the thing is, the chimpanzees are just kind of jumping in the air. Their midsection's open. It's not like they're just going to swat you down like they're a Muay Thai expert. This is not Sanchai we're dealing with. It's a chimp. You sidekick it to the body, and then you get ready for the next burst. The biggest enemy in this situation is your mind. Because a lot of people against these animals, they're scared. And I would be too. I'd be scared shitless. I'd be shitting my pants. But if you can control your mind, if you can get control of it, and you realize, wait a second, this is just 130 pounds flying at me and leaping at me with about no technique. No technique whatsoever. But, people overrate these chimps. People overrate the fuck out of these chimps because they act like these things are heavily corded, and Rogan will glaze them, and Rogan will talk about how you think you can sidekick it. A chimpanzee will literally break your leg when you sidekick it. Like, they're not masterminds, okay? It's a fucking chimp that's gonna freaking leap on you. Let's relax. One sidekick, if you can control your mind, which means at the end of the day, if you're shitting your pants and you see this crazy thing with these freaking like fangs hanging out of its face, and it can rip your face off and it's fucking vicious, you're gonna be scared. But if you can get control over it, you can throw a crisp sidekick and meet it head on. Boom. Sidekick it. Next up, you got to prepare for the second charge. Maybe now the chimp just runs at you on its 4 legs. What do? You can meet it on with a front kick to the face, maybe a front kick up the middle, just teep it out again, or a heel. Or if you're slick, which again, you have to be an expert to do this, but if I'm Yair Rodriguez, I'm spinning back kicking it with perfect technique. Listen, I know that people think of chimps as indestructible. They have brains like you and I. They can be KO'd. If you can spinning back kick it right square on the nose, at the end of the day, you have to remember these animals, they have their survival instincts too. It's like, a bear that's hunting. If an animal kicks it in the face or just kind of pisses it off, right? If a bear charges a hunter and a hunter, pulls a trigger on a gun, the bear is going to take the first shot. It's not going to want to continue. It's going to run away because it's going to say, this is not worth it. It's not really worth it. Same thing with one of these animals. If you just bop it in the nose, it's going to think, wait a second, this is a little bit more difficult than the stupid deers that I've been hunting in the woods. This is more difficult than the berries that I've been getting in the trees. Let me go away. Your best chance is to hit it hard on the nose with a front kick or a spinning back kick. If you could land one of those on the second charge, I think it runs away and I think you could win a decision. But most likely you are going to miss. I just can't imagine a chimp going for a fifth or sixth charge. Okay? Now, do I personally think that I'm skilled enough to win that battle 50% of the time or more? No. I think that I have a very slim chance to get it with a side kick, to meet it head on a couple times with some kicks to keep it away from me, maybe land one on the nose, piss it off, get it to run away. I think what's most likely happening is it gets past the first kick. I miss the mark a little bit. Maybe I graze it and, it's like right in front of me and it jumps on me before I can load up another one and I'm done. So I'm going to put chimps in the high A tier. I'm going to expect these guys to be able to beat me more than 99% of the time. But there's still a chance, so it can't be S tier. S tier means it's impossible to beat one of these guys. So I'm going to put chimps in the A tier. I think that 97% of the time it gets the better of me, but I think that would be the approach that I would take as someone with the martial arts experience and knowledge that I have. Next up, we have an African elephant. The African elephant usually weighs about 14,000 pounds, and their height is usually between 13 feet tall. Okay. So 13 feet tall, about 14,000 pounds versus me, again, 5'8", 170. I'm probably going to put these guys in the S tier. I just think that there's really nothing I can do. I mean, what am I supposed to do? Leg kick it? An elephant's leg is like Jan Blachowicz' shin times 5. So I'm probably not going to be able to do a lot of damage. This is not Peaches and Creamville. We're not in Lord of the Rings where I can kind of climb on top of it like Legolas and I have no weapons. It's just hand to hand. What am I going to do? Hammer fist it? It's going to shake me off and stomp me into the freaking canvas. So I'm going to go with an elephant 100% of the time. Extremely difficult. I ain't beating an elephant. No chance. Next up, we got an elk. Joe Rogan's favorite, an elk. These dudes are big. And again, we're fighting these guys in sort of an MMA sort of setting. Now, obviously, an elk can stab me with its antlers. And it's one of those animals that's fast. It's like, people think, I can just kind of get a hold of one of these things. It'll stomp you in the face. It'll kick you. And again, it's like these things are tough. You feel an elk and it's like a tough thing. It's got a hide. It's got tough skin. And the antlers are a problem. It's not like a walrus where the walrus is fat. And what's it going to do with its tusks? It's going to like bite down on you like it would bite down on a popsicle or some shit like that. Just picking up its tusks and slamming them down. Elks can charge at you head first. It'd be a tough one. The way that I would approach a fight with an elk, I think a nice side kick to the chest would always be something. But the thing is, it would charge me head first. So it's like, if I were to aim for the chest, I'm hitting the antlers and I'm getting smoked with the antlers. I have to find a way to treat it like a matador, right? So if I'm fighting an elk, there's no point in me getting in the guard. It's just not going to do anything. I have to bait it in. I've got to feint. I've got to kind of make it charge at me and switch off on an angle. If I'm able to switch off on that angle, if that elk is chasing me and if I juke it, if I'm working on my footwork and I juke it, it runs past me. I think, unlike an elephant, I think it is more doable that I get on the back of an elk. Now, what am I going to do on the back of an elk? I'm going to hammer fist. I'm going to look for the rear naked choke. But it's going to be difficult to do that too because its neck is like, the size of my body. You know what I mean? The neck of an elk is freaking, it's massive. Probably insubmittable. You're going to have to really go crazy and try to do something creative. And I don't think that I have the power to be able to pull that off. I think you're going to need some ridiculous heavyweight power to, once you juke it, be able to get on the back and actually do some damage with some hammer fists. So I think that I've got no chance to beat an elk. They're big. Again, they're like 500 pounds. I just don't think I could do a lot of damage to it. I think it would buck me off and probably just fuck me up with the antlers. So I'm going to put an elk in the S tier, actually. Surprisingly difficult these elks are. Next up, we have a saltwater crocodile. These guys can be about 2,000 pounds. Height-wise, we're talking about a foot, max, foot and a half. So obviously I have a big advantage there. Sort of like the walrus is the crocodile. It's about 2,000 pounds. It's big. You don't want to stand in front of it. So right off the bat, we're approaching this fight. Do not stand in front of a alligator or a crocodile. I actually think these guys are somewhat beatable. Now, again, a big part of it is just kind of maintaining your cool, calm, and collectedness. Remember, they can change off on an angle, but they can't do a full 180 very fast. A crocodile, it moves in like 45 degrees. So if you touch its tail, it's going to be pissed. It's going to turn around, but it will hit a 45 degree, and then it'll have to do the next one and the next one. They're not doing a 180. They're not flipping around really quickly. So you could, if you get to the side of it, teeps aren't going to do anything. Kicks aren't going to do anything. Your way to beat a crocodile is going to be to get on the back. You got to get on the back, and you got to stomp it and stomp it some more. So that's the way to win a fight against a crocodile. Now, what are the chances that you slip while stomping, while it's moving? And these are like freakishly alien-like sort of things. They don't operate like people. They're cold-blooded, so their movements are like freaky, right? They're very fast and abrupt. And they're scary. They're very scary because they don't have like a soul like a warm-blooded animal would have. They're very cold, these crocodiles. So you have to be careful because if you slip, even though they're a little bit clunky with the way that they move, it could still get you. And while you're getting up, it'll get your ankle. Once it gets your ankle, you're screwed. It'll do a roll. It'll take your leg and you're done. You're basically screwed. You have to be slick, you have to be fast, and you have to be intentional with your movements. If you can get at the back of a crocodile and you can stomp on it, I think you can, if you've got good cardio, I think you can last a little bit and do some decent damage. I honestly don't think the crocodile would want the smoke. I think eventually it would get away. But they're pretty stupid, these animals, and I think eventually they might actually come at you a little bit. It might come at you with a vengeance. 25-minute fight, I actually think it'd be a little bit dangerous to fuck with a crocodile. I think it'd be a little bit dangerous because I could see you eventually are going to make a mistake. Unlike chimpanzees, they're probably not just going to run away if you get them with a couple of hard shots. They're dumb, these animals, the crocodiles. There's not a whole lot going on, and all they know is kill. All they know is hunt. All they know is eat. Chimpanzees, they've got fruit, they've got family, they've got tribes. Crocodiles don't have any of that. So these guys, they're hungry. You know what I mean? Crocodiles have the hunger that you simply don't have. Now, you have the will to win, but there's a difference between a crocodile's hunger, predator, 100% predator, versus you that is, we're the apex predators at the end of the day. Human beings are the top of the food chain, but not in a mano-a-mano sense. You know what I mean? A part of you is like, shit, if I mess up here, I'm food. You're not eating that crocodile, though. And so the thing is, if you make one little mistake and you start to get tired, and it's a 25-minute fight, there's a chance that crocodile keeps doing their clunky 45-degree turns and attempts at a 180 that it can't hit. Eventually, those things, they have a weird gas tank. They have weird movements. Eventually, it might catch you. It might eat you. Your only way is by decision. I think that the best way to beat a crocodile is, again, good cardio, being able to get to the back, kicking the tail, stomping on the back. If you fall, though, you're screwed. I'm going to put a crocodile up there in the A tier with the chimps. Pretty difficult animals. You've got to have some legit cardio to beat. Next up, we have a fully grown male tiger. About 575 pounds, almost 600 pounds. Locked and loaded with some really sharp teeth. Very fast, big paws. They have sharp claws as well. I'm going to say my approach to a fight with a tiger would probably be something like shitting my pants. All right, I'd probably shit my pants while seeing it flying at me. There's a difference between a chimp flying at you where it looks like a person, doesn't have these crazy fangs, and it has fingers like me, 2 hands like me, like Yoel Romero would say. But a tiger is just a totally different thing. These things are stealth killers. They hunt, one bite on your neck and you're toast. And even if I punch it, it's like, they say things like a chimp runs in, you try to punch a chimp and you're going to break your hand. Bullshit. I'm not going to break my fucking hand if I punch a chimpanzee flying at me. A tiger, though, that thing's like 600 pounds and it's flying at you. You're not going to break your hand, but it's going to absorb the shot and eat you, all right, or bite you. I'm going to say I'm going to put a tiger in an S tier. I don't think there's a whole lot of approach to that fight. You're going to have to swing a big, gnarly overhand. The only way you win that fight is swinging a big, gnarly overhand right, throwing it over the top like a sack of potatoes and just hoping and praying that it lands on the equilibrium, that it lands right above the ear. At that place where, usually can rock someone. But even if it does, you're probably not hurting the tiger. Or you're hoping that, that the shit that came out of your pants when you shit your pants is stinky enough to dissuade the tiger from actually eating you. That's the way you beat a tiger. Very low. Let's put this in the S tier. Pretty much impossible to beat. Next up, we have a black bear. Now, listen, these aren't grizzly bears, and they're not polar bears. Black bears, let's check the stats. Let's see how they scale up compared to me. So, male black bears can weigh about 400 pounds, and they can be about 5'7" when they're standing on 2 legs. So, even when it's on 2 legs, that's literally boxing range for me. That's like right in the pocket. Black bears are the goofy goobers of the bear community, let's be honest. You see a video of a black bear, and they're usually poking their head out, standing like Winnie the Pooh, kind of scouting over the neighborhood fence to see if they can get any good trash from the trash can next door. These are your neighborhood cat style of bears. And I'm not intimidated. I'm not intimidated by these fuckers, all right? Not in the slightest. Not in the slightest. Again, if one of these gets the jump on you, if you don't expect it and you're lying down in the yard and they jump over the top, for sure, they can definitely fuck you up. But, standing across from the cage, that thing runs at me. I'm kicking it to the nose with this gnarly old sidekick, straight sidekick to the nose, okay? Like a Wonder Boy Thompson sidekick. And black bears, like a lot of other animals, they're the type of things where, they get hit on the nose. They run into a thing of barbed wire, a bush with spikes on it or something, like a cactus. It's probably going to try to find its prey somewhere else because, they're smart. They don't want to get fucked up in the grand scheme of things. They want to find food where it's not, they're not like alligators. They don't have that freak factor to where an alligator's like the most durable animal. You could chop its tail off and it's still coming after you to eat you. It doesn't think that way, but these mammals are a little bit smarter. They get hit a couple times. It's like you get KO'd a couple of times. Your body gets KO'd easier to protect you. A black bear gets sidekicked to the nose. It's probably not going to want to do that charge more than 2 or 3 times. So I'm going to sit here and I'm going to say, I think I've got a real good shot. I'm not afraid of a black bear. I should be, because usually you just yell at these things and they back up. That's usually how you do it. You yell at them and they just run away. I'm going in there with a heavy trash talking approach, the Bobby Green approach. I'm trash talking. I'm saying what? I'm in their face. I'm yelling at them. I'm saying count them up. And I think if we get into boxing range again, black bears, they're kind of goofy. They're swinging around their hands. They've got short reaches. I think I'm popping it right in the snout. I think I'm popping it right in the snout with a stiff jab right on the nose. The question is, do I miss my sidekick? Because initially, it might just run at me. I don't think this thing might stand up, and that's usually how it's going to start. It stands up, I get it with a jab, it resets, it charges at me. I got to land that sidekick. If I don't land that sidekick, I'm going to get bit. And maybe I'm underestimating them, but I think I'm going to put them in the You know what? I'm putting it in the C tier. I think I beat a black bear. I'm sorry. I think I win a fight against one of these guys. But let's try to introduce another one of his cousins. Let's go with the grizzly bears. Grizzly bears are, let's check the stats. So a grizzly bear can weigh up to 600 pounds. Okay, 600 pounds. That's 200 pounds extra, and they're a little bit more lethal. I don't know. Interesting. 600 pounds doesn't shock me. That's not as impressive as I thought. It's a little tough. I think grizzly bears will be a little bit more athletic, a little bit more vicious. Again, you kind of have to just yell at these things and hope that they go away. But if it does charge you, you're pretty much screwed. You're getting clawed in the face. You're probably getting bit. The best thing you could possibly hope for is the pitch-perfect spinning wheel kick. All right, the pitch-perfect spinning back kick, heel to the snout. And you're probably not even going to KO it, but maybe you stun it just enough to get it to bail out of there. But I think a grizzly bear probably is an S tier. There's probably no chance I'm beating one of them. And we'll bring out polar bears. The average weight of a male polar bear is about 900 pounds. But the record weight is 1,600. So let's say 1,300 pounds, 1.3K pounds. And they can be about 9 feet tall, which is pretty crazy. 5 feet shoulder width, which is pretty nuts. 5 feet at the shoulder. So if they're on hind legs, I'm going to have the height advantage. But if they stand up, yes, they might be a little bit goofy, but they're not black bears to where they're like your sort of stature. I'm putting these guys in the S tier. I think that polar bears, they might be a little bit tough to beat, about 1,300 pounds. Just a little bit more vicious than grizzly bears, and they'll probably just start eating me right away. So I'm going to put them in the S tier, probably impossible to beat. Next up, we have an ostrich. Ostriches can be about 8 to 9 feet tall, about 300 pounds. These are some pretty big birds. How would I fare in a fight against an ostrich? Well, first off, I'm going to just say this. They're not in the S tier. I wouldn't even consider these guys in the A tier. Now, don't get me wrong. I like my eyes, and I don't intend to lose them. And I would be pretty scared of losing them in a fight with an ostrich. I definitely would. But if you think about it, these guys have very skinny legs, incredibly skinny legs. And the way that they fight is usually just by pecking each other. And if you can avoid a good old ostrich peck, and you can kick the low kicks, if you can go with a couple of big ugly low kicks on a small ostrich shin, I think you can really do some damage. Like, I just can't imagine that the shin of an ostrich is very sturdy. I think a gnarly low kick, even if it's shin to shin, even if the ostrich doesn't even check the kick. If it checks the kick, it's one thing. But if I go shin to shin with an ostrich, I'm winning that battle. I think I can do some damage. And you know what? I think that I can use some head movement to get out of the way of an ostrich peck. As I said, Legolas in Lord of the Rings can climb on a elephant or whatever, but I think that I can actually realistically get the neck of an ostrich, and I think it'll have a pretty strong neck. That usually seems to be the way that they do things. I think if I get a hold of that neck of an ostrich, I think I can get a hold of it, and I think I could pry it. I think I can pry it, and I think I could kind of muscle it to the ground. Now, an ostrich 300 pounds, and again, these are birds. These are not mammals. They have the freak factor. And I could just imagine an ostrich having some freakish ability with its neck to have an insane strength to move around as it pleases. But I think given I do train dips and I train triceps, I tend to think I have a pretty good ability to keep some weight down. And I think that I could maybe get a hold of its neck. I honestly think I could beat an ostrich. I think a couple of big ugly low kicks. You always can't underestimate a bird or a reptile's ability to have that freak factor. But for the most part, I think fight IQ, birds, we say bird brain for a reason. They don't have the smartest fight IQ. I think I could be able to dodge out of the way of it pecking at me, get a hold of the neck, pry it down to the ground. 300 pounds, fair enough. That thing is pretty strong. And you don't want, if you freaking pry it down to the ground, its legs are going to be in the air and it's going to freaking try to get you with the legs, and you don't want to get stabbed with an ostrich toe. That obviously would suck. But a couple of big ugly low kicks, it's think of the Muay Thai clinch. You get a hold of the neck and you freaking sweep at the legs. That'd be my best chance to win this fight. I'm going to say a leg kick TKO. Last but not least, we have Silverback Gorilla. So Silverback Gorillas can be about 430 pounds. They can be about 5 feet tall. And I think that's when they're on their hind legs too, which is pretty crazy. And they can lift over 1,763 pounds of dead weight. Just like weight lying around, put 1,700 pounds on a barbell, that gorilla is able to lift it. How would I approach this fight, and what tier are we going to put a gorilla? I'm going to put a gorilla in the A tier. All right, no, I'm kidding. I'm going to put it in the S tier. I just think that at a certain point, this is not a 130-pound chimp flying in your direction. Again, people think chimps are so much stronger than they are. I've literally seen videos on Instagram where people say things like, a chimp could rip your arm off. It'll just take your arm. Like, no, it won't. A chimp is not just going to fucking grab your arm and yank it off. That happens when you're already dead and 5 or 6 chimps get together and pull with all of their might. That's not one chimp. They act like if you shake hands with a chimp, your arm's coming off. That's just so dumb. All right, they're 130 pounds. They're dangerous. I still have them high up there, but a gorilla's S tier. And these guys are like 4 times the size of a chimp. They have teeth that are sharper than chimps. One big haymaker is probably going to get the better of you. I just think you're toast. I think it's going to go in there. It's going to leap at you in the air with no technique whatsoever, but it's going to clobber you with 2 hammer fists. And you're done. You're toast. It'll take your leg. It'll drag you around the forest floor or the canvas. It'll freaking just mash you up, man. It's not a fight you want with one of these guys. So my way to approach it, because again, I have to tell you how I'm going to approach this fight. I'm looking for a spinning kick. I'm looking for a spinning back kick. Just something with a lot of force behind it. Something where if I just hope and pray that it lands on the chest of a gorilla that's doing the big leap, I think that maybe it could deter it. Maybe I could step off on the side and throw a big overhand over the top. If I can maybe throw an overhand over the top, I think that maybe I can catch it while it lands. If it's in the air and it lands on the ground and I step to the side to kind of evade it, there's going to be a split second where that gorilla lands and it's not, moving forward after it lands. I think if I can time that overhand and land on the equilibrium right over the ear, I think maybe something can happen for me. But the chances of that happening are pretty slim. So I'm going to put them in the high A tier. I think that if I do land those shots, I win this fight. But I'm joking. I'm going to put them in the S tier. Pretty impossible to beat a gorilla. Again, these guys are some tough guys in the animal kingdom. But yeah,